I entered the world as a disruption. At 11 3/4 pounds, I was the biggest baby ever born in the history of that hospital. I cannot remember a time growing up when there wasn't disruption. My mother was the wife of the chairman of the board, and as such, she was tolerated, she was indulged, and basically she was considered eccentric. But, and I have to say, she was brilliant. She had flashes of brilliance, flashes of charm, and she was truly a profound visionary. Federally mandated in Proposition 502 of the American Constitution is the fact, several facts, such as that wheelchairs, that all public laboratories have to be wheelchair accessible. Every sidewalk in every city in this country has to be wheelchair accessible. For handicap parking only, which is actually no longer the term we would use, but parking places in every public facility. These were all my mother's ideas. She created the very first telethon in this country. She went to NASA after the launching of the first man on the moon, and she was angry, and she said, but what are you doing for people on Earth? Take that titanium, the lightweight materials you use, develop, and apply it to wheelchairs, apply it to braces. And you've developed all this robotic, apply it so people can have control and a life, people with disability. She was amazing. However, it was different at home. My mother was extremely strict and demanded perfection. Many of us have that. But my mother was both verbally and physically abusive. She was unpredictable and uncontrollable in her rages. She made Christina Crawford's life as the daughter of Joan Crawford in Mommy Dearest look like she was floating on a cloud. Eventually, I became her legal guardian. So many people complained, and she was in so many 72-hour detentions. From the youngest of ages, I felt always that I was an outsider. I was shunned. I was shunned for many reasons. I was shunned because I was the only girl of my faith in a private girls' school, and I was not wanted there. I was shunned because my mother was so impossible, and no one wanted to come home with me, and I didn't want to take anybody home with me, none of my girlfriends. And I was shunned because I had an older sister who was very severely with disability. And people are afraid of that which they don't know, and they were afraid of her. Afraid because she didn't sound like anyone else. She sat in a wheelchair and she drooled and she had spastic motions and very limited capabilities. I loved my sister, but we were shunned. Into my parents' life came a caretaker when my much older sister was 2 years old. She never took a vacation. She had but one wish. She said, I just hope that your sister will die before I do, because no one will ever love her the way I do. And it came to pass. She said to me, your mother can't help herself, Loreen. She cannot help herself. I learned forgiveness later, but at the very earliest of ages, I learned not to judge my mother. I heard, kill with kindness. However, I internalized my anger, and my anger exploded in school. I am here to tell you, we talk about the bullies, and we talk about the incredible consciousness, awareness that's going on about bullying. I was the class bully. I was the bully. I had a small entourage that spurred me on. And I do believe that if I had gone to a public school, I would have been the leader of the girl gang, and I would have been either in jail or dead. I am so humiliated to have to tell you, but I have to tell you, that 3 teachers left the school on my count. I needed my existence to be validated. Virtually, there was nothing I wouldn't do for attention, and basically revenge. At the end of the 9th grade, I got a summons from the headmistress. I used that to the hilt because everyone was awestruck, and I parlayed that into more attention. But what went on behind those closed doors 2 hours a week, every week, for about a year and a half, changed my life. The headmistress said to me, Loreen, close the door. I'm going to ask you one thing. You must keep this a secret, what goes on behind these doors, this door. And she said, you could sit in the window seat and you can sleep if you like, or sit in that big armchair and read a book, or do nothing, or you can talk with me if you feel like talking. You can talk about anything at all that you want. She gave me the gift of space, space to be. In my junior year, I became the editor of the school magazine. In my senior year, I became president of the class. I was a marginalized person, both as a female and as a nonconformist, but I made best efforts to fit in college and thereafter. I always felt like I was wearing the skin of another animal. I was very verbal, very creative, had many outlets for my creativity, good with words, always filled with ideas, but I felt disenfranchised, cut off, despite my successes professionally. I mean, I was the first woman in the country to be head of programming for a network. I did so many things to prove that I was there, that I existed, that I had meaning in this world. I devoted a lot of my time in the nonprofit world from the earliest of ages. I had art shows, I founded nonprofits. I never stopped, but I was a robot. I had no idea who I was. I always felt like I was on the outside looking in. Enter Tango, the next disruptor in my life. The origins of Argentine tango, it's no coincidence that came into my life. It began with people who were disaffected. They came from Europe. They were criminals. They were on the lam. They were trying to make a better life because they needed to leave where they were. And that was the beginning, and tango just pulled me in. And it allowed me to merge my compartmentalized self. Now it was finally okay to be a person with emotion, to have a heart connection. Tango resolved the duality of being a woman in a man's world. It brought fluidity into my life, the freedom to express myself, my passionate self, to be vulnerable, to be sensual, to be feminine. I felt that I was born again. I began to feel like a whole person. The next disruptor in my life was tango, again. In tango, you have a partner, and I did have for many years a partner, and we danced professionally all over the world and choreographed and taught. At the same time, I was senior vice president at Viacom, but doing both. And, but I've mostly danced every night of my life, no matter where I am in the world. I'll leave a black tie event, and I go out and I dance. I just dance. And what tango, that next step of disruption, taught me on the most profound level is that power does not equal control. Real power is to surrender, to listen, to dialogue. Tango is a dance of equals. Back and forth, give and take, lead and follow. The merging of opposites, the feminine, the masculine, the stillness, the movement. To give in and be in control. To succumb and to take charge. From disruptions can come the opportunity to make choices. I think disruptions are divine interventions. I think women talk a heck of a lot too much about and attribute their successes to luck. It's not about luck. It's about how hard we work to get what we have accomplished, and we should own it. That being said, I've had an enormous amount of the luck force sitting on my shoulder. From my sister's caretaker who taught me love and forgiveness, to my dad who said, do anything, be anyone, but be happy. To the headmistress who gave me space to be, who helped me to become who I could be. To my friends and business associates who gave me support in the best of times and the worst of times. But and this is what I claim, this is what I own, I was open to their insights and their guidance. The space between disruption and starting over is best understood in retrospect. I came to realize that. That space is about letting go. Letting go of anger, of blame, of resentment, of having to be right, of bad memories, of toxicity. It's about letting go and being there, truly there for other people, for the gifts of life. I look forward to my next disruptions. Good and bad, I will embrace each one of them. They will take me to a new level. I don't want to live in the world of the status quo. Bring on the disruptions.